All right, good morning. I get to use a mic this morning because Josh broke the other one. You leave the kids behind, and yeah, I know, he did. He owned it. It's just one of those things. It happens sometimes, and we'll get it fixed. If you want to follow along, you can use your phone, go to YouVersion, and you'll find under events all the verses, although there's only going to be a couple for you. Any other announcements and notes and stuff like that too. And let's see. We've been working on a Bible verse, and so it's in Colossians chapter 3, 16 to 17. So if you can say this with me, here we go. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. So we've been talking about This Is Us, and by This Is Us we mean we is a family, and just kind of a cool God thing. When we were gone last week, we were down in Myrtle Beach for a national softball tournament with Sarah and her team, and some of her other coaches came down and traveled with us, and one of them she's a pretty strong believer, and I've been making inroads, and they know I am. I get to pray with the girls before every game and all that kind of stuff, but she's like, I haven't missed church in like 3 years, so you want to do church on the beach? I'm like, that'd be a great idea. And so because it was her idea, we got to do church on the beach with the entire softball team that was staying at the hotel. And it was really cool because I didn't have to push it and pull the pastor card and guilt people into it. And it was kind of funny too because some of them had a little extra drink and spent a little too much time at the karaoke bar the night before, so we had a good time. Yeah, the adults, not the children. Yeah, they wouldn't serve the 13-year-olds, I hope. Yeah, if that happened, I don't know about it. So as we're kind of going through Colossians, we're looking at different kinds of relationships. And last week, Josh and Jess talked about marriage and that relationship and a lot of the things that you learn in marriage. What's that? Yeah, I assume. They could have talked about anything, I suppose. But a lot of what you learn in marriage applies to all kinds of relationships, and it's not going to be any different with what we're talking about today, which is parent-child relationships, specifically children. And so if you're one of the lucky ones who is not dismissed to children's church, and you're sitting near or by your parents, get ready. We're going to start in Colossians chapter 3, verse 20, and it's as simple as this. It says, "Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord." Okay, now that could be a very guilt-inducing verse if you're a mom or a dad. Like, you need to obey me in everything because you want God to be happy, right? Don't do that. And there's a parallel verse in Ephesians chapter 6. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with the promise that it may go well with you and you may live long in the land." Well, I was thinking about, what we were going to be talking about when we were at the beach, and we went to Myrtle Waves, which is just a water park, one day, and as Laura and I were walking, we walked by and there was this little kid, and we could hear Mom, and Mom would say, like, "Billy, come here." And Billy would scream at the top of his lungs, like kids do sometimes, with his back to Mom, "No! Billy, I need you to come put a life jacket on." Okay, and so we hear this as we're, 50 yards coming to them. And the entire time that we're walking up to them and then past them, Mom is telling Billy something, and Billy is saying, "No!" To the point, by the time we got even with them, it wasn't just a one-syllable no. It was, "No!" And by the time we got past, Billy was almost following us, and so Billy was 30 yards past Mom. Mom still hadn't gotten out of the chair. I'm thinking, is this a Billy problem or a Mom problem? I'll let you decide. And the week before, we were at Camp Connect, and just another report on that. Camp Connect was a great week. The very first night, there were 35 kids that made some kind of decision, and later in the week, another dozen or so made some kind of decision, and so that was great. But we have rules at Camp Connect. I don't even remember all of them. They all start with P. If you guys who were there can remember them. I know one's no purpling, which is, boys are blue, girls are pink, no purple. One is no pranks. No what? No parties. Okay, no parties. What's another one? Personal what? Personal periphery. What is that? Don't isolate yourself. Okay, good. Good job. See, they know the rules. But then there are kids there that don't know the rules. There are kids there that do not listen to the rules. I remember Sarah, my oldest, she's helping Laura today. But you'd get in the elevator, and of course there's one elevator for everybody at camp. And at every floor, as the elevator is about to close, this one particular boy would always stick his foot in the door. And then the elevator would open, and you'd wait for the doors to close, and he'd stick his foot in the door. And then he'd pull it out, and everybody'd get mad at him and tell him to stop. And then he'd get to the first floor, and he'd stick his foot in the door as they're trying to get to the second. So if you're on the fourth floor, you hate this kid. Wouldn't follow the rules. I remember one night, it was about 12 o'clock. Lights out is supposed to be at 10 o'clock. I'd stayed down, and we were talking about how well camp was going. And I decided to do a walk on the boys' floor. And as I'm walking by, I hear noise. It's not to be unexpected, but it is 12 o'clock. And we don't allow them to really lock their doors. And so, I can open the door if I need to. Well, I stand there and I listen a little bit, and I'm like, I don't just hear two voices like there are two kids in here. I hear like 8. So I wait and I listen a little bit, and I don't hear anything incriminating, and so I just knock. And who comes to the door? Not one of the campers. One of the leaders. One of the high school leaders who has another half a dozen high school leaders in there, and they're just chilling and not following the rules. Now, why am I telling you this? Because we had kids on the wrong floor and in the wrong groups and eating at the wrong times and showing up in the wrong places and going in the wrong places and all that kind of stuff. But it was all around a really good week. And we have kids like Billy at Myrtle Waves who won't listen to mom and dad and they don't want to obey or anything like that. Maybe you were like that. Maybe you've had kids like that. Maybe you've witnessed that when you were at the grocery store and some mom or dad told their kid, no, you cannot have any candy, and they had a complete meltdown in the middle of aisle 3. Some of you can relate. Okay? Well, when this says, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord, there's a reason. It's because obedience is something that must be learned. Obedience is something that must be learned. It doesn't come naturally, and so it's something that's commanded, it's something that's desired, but it's also something that must be learned, because rebellion is something that comes absolutely naturally. Absolutely naturally. You know that when you tell somebody they can't do something and say, yeah, I probably can. You tell a kid, I told my girls last night, Asa and Carissa spent the night with Sarah and Hannah, and I told them, you guys, you need to come in. They were playing in the pool. You need to come in. It's 10:30. I'm going to bed. And then it was about 11:15, and I'm like, you guys need to be quiet now. I'm going to bed. I don't want to hear you. Don't make me come out here. Well, then I hear this morning from Hannah, she tells me, we tried to pull an all-nighter. Like, what? That's exactly what she said. I said, well, did you make it? She goes, no, we only made it till 4. But you didn't hear us, did you? So I should have probably included, instead of don't let me hear you, go to bed. So I guess technically she can say she was obedient. But I think she understood the implied meaning, which was go to bed, and rebellion comes naturally. So you guys know, maybe you don't, okay? I'm one of those guys. I like to push the limits. I like to, are you really laughing at me going, really? I do. And so when we start talking about rules, people usually ask, Well, what if, okay, so if you're playing a game or something like this, and somebody's teaching you a new game, and you start giving the rules, if you're like me, you immediately start thinking of possible options that may not have been addressed by the rules where there is a way out. So if you're supposed to play a game where you pop up a ball with your hand, what if they use their foot? What if it bounces off of this or that? You start looking for ways around the rules when somebody starts talking about it. However, if you get called on the rules, if you get told, you just broke the rules, you can't do that. A lot of times the first thing people say, and this is what happened at camp, well, what about? So it's not what if something happens, it's already happened. Now it's what about them? What about this? Why didn't he get in trouble? This happens at my house all the time. Chandler, he's already smiling, he knows I'm going to say it. He thinks that Hannah gets away with everything. Now, Hannah gets away with some things. I'm just going to admit it. All right, you understand that, Chandler? I know this. But there are... Okay. But not all the time. Is Hannah completely free of trouble? Has she ever been like, whatever, Hannah, go do what you want. You want to hit your sister again, go ahead. No, that doesn't happen. But if Chandler is ever getting talked to, or any of my other kids, Sarah for that matter, the ones that are still in the house, Tyler might even do it, I don't know. The immediate reaction is, well, what about Hannah? She didn't get in trouble, she just said this, she didn't come, blah, 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 blah. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. And obedience is something that must be taught, because rebellion comes naturally. I don't know if any of you guys know Josh McDowell. He works with, does a lot of student work and ministry work. He's a guy who was an avowed atheist, and he wanted to just shut his girlfriend up, and so he set out to prove Jesus wrong and ended up becoming a believer. Well, one of the things he says is that truth, or rules even, but truth, telling somebody what's true, without a relationship often leads to rejection. Discipline, telling them what they did wrong and you're going to be in trouble, without a relationship often leads to resentment. And then the one thing that he said that a lot of people quote and remember is rules without relationship leads to rebellion. So I'm going to encourage you parents as we talk about rules, make sure that you also have a relationship, and it's not one of just a dictatorial authoritarian who has discipline, because that could lead to rejection and resentment. And don't be somebody who just, kind of doesn't, truth, whatever. They're just going to reject you. Rules without relationship leads to rebellion. And so relationships are important. It's part of This Is Us. It's what the family is we're going to talk about. Excuse me. Children and parents. And understand that moms, dads, you, me, I was kind of struggling with this on my way in, realizing if I'm a child of God, then I need to obey God. Children, obey your parent, your father, in everything. And so this applies to us as well. So children, obey your parents in everything. Children, obey your parents, for this is right. You guys know this, but we all begin as children who need to learn. And there are all kinds of things that we learn, okay? We were watching a couple little kids right here who are learning to walk. There are kids who, you learn to walk, and then first you learn to crawl, maybe roll over. You learn to smile, you learn to chew your toes, all those little things happen. Then you learn to walk. Then at some point we hope you learn to eat and to talk. And it's kind of funny when kids learn to talk. I wish I could have remembered what it was called, but there was this one video I saw of some kid who couldn't say a particular word. I don't even remember what it was, but his parents would say this, say this, say this, and he would say it perfectly, and then they'd say birthday cake, and it sounded like boo-boo-da-da. Like, it didn't even have a B in it. I didn't even do that right. Like shirt, that's what it sounded like. Say birthday cake, shirt. What in the world? Like, that kid's going to have problems. But we learn how to talk. I know some of you have been dealing with and have dealt with potty training. But we all start as children, and we need to learn. Then we learn how to dress ourselves. We learn how to make decisions. There's all kinds of stuff that happens. You learn to read. Some of us, we learn to share. Some of us, we learn to consider other people. Some of us have even grown to the point where we learn how to clean. But we all start as children, and there's something that needs to happen. We need to learn. So, what do? Well, children, this is who you are. You need to learn. A couple of our values here are teachable and accountable. So when we say, children, obey your parents in everything, that means if we don't obey your parents, that there's going to be a teachable moment and you're going to be held accountable. At least that's how it's supposed to be. That means that there's going to be some kind of growth and change, because children shouldn't remain children. That means as we come to Jesus and we start learning how to follow Jesus, there are things that should change about us. There was a story that happened. Some young adults who are followers of Jesus could explain their faith, could give you their testimony. They were gathered around one day. These were guys. And they were gathered around, and one of them, who wasn't maybe as strong in their faith, made some comment about how we should have a contest with our phones to see who can get, what do you think? Not numbers. The most nudes. And so here they are, and there are some of them there that are spiritually mature and some that aren't. And they're having a spiritual conversation while a small portion of them are having a completely carnal competition. And so as they're talking about Jesus and they're talking about faith and they're talking about what it looks like to live out their faith as a group, every once in a while one of them will say, "Got one." And then they'll keep talking and say, "Well, what do you think? How do you do your devotional time? What have you been reading lately? What's been impactful of you?" "I got one." "Ooh, we're tied." And then they'd go back to it. Can you imagine what that looks like? See, we all begin as children, and sometimes there's conflicts that happen. We need to learn. We need to grow. And these guys are going to need to grow out of that. They're going to need to recognize that this isn't how adults act. This isn't how people who are mature in the Lord behave. And it's not always easy. And so there's a leader who we could consider like the parents, the one who is responsible for someone, like these young adults were. They were responsible for some because they led in some capacity. And they're the ones who get blamed when things go wrong. Now this is just like God. God is a parent. He is responsible for us. He's the one who gets blamed when things go wrong. You ever heard somebody say, "Why did God let this happen?" Because he's the one who gets blamed when things go wrong. But then there's children, like us. And we're the ones that are responsible to someone who is our parent. And so what we do is we try to pass the blame. Children, obey your parents. But what I've heard and what you've heard, whether we get around teens or even kids, there was one video, it was too long, it was funny, but you might want to go look it up. I think it's called Hey Linda. Linda, listen. Have some of you guys seen this? Okay, so it's this little kid. It's about 2.5 minutes long. It's this little kid, he's about 3 maybe. And he wanted ice cream. And he is making an amazing case that he should be allowed to have ice cream. And whenever his mom, whose name is Linda, starts saying, "But I told you you cannot," No, Linda, listen to me. And then he would go back into explaining it. For 3 minutes this goes on. And he's "You should get a pop-pop, like not a pop-pop candy, but a pop-pop on your butt, like a spanking." He goes, No, Linda, listen. What are you trying to do? He's trying to just move responsibility to someone else. "You're not listening to me." No, Linda, you're not listening to me. It's hilarious. Go look it up. Linda, listen. But there's a leader who's responsible. There's the parent. And then there's the child who's responsible to the parent. And that's where it all kinds of starts. And so when we see problems like Billy at the pool, a lot of us might say, Billy is just a bad kid. And some of us might say, Mom is just a bad mom. I don't know if it's either one, because a lot of times when kids misbehave, they don't actually create problems, they just reveal them. And so they've revealed that there's some kind of problem, and it's not all Mom, and it's not all Billy, but they both have something they can work on. Children, we all begin there, and we need to grow. So, we're just going to camp in this verse. I'm going to give you a couple more things. This verse doesn't say, it says, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. That's what it says. It doesn't say, children, learn everything, does it? So why in the world would I say, hey, you need to learn? We need to grow, we need to learn? Well, I'll tell you, because the word that it says obey here, it's actually a compound word in the Greek, okay? It's hupo akuo, okay? It's two parts. Hupo means underneath or coming after, and akuo is like acoustics, which means what? Hearing. After hearing. This is what it means to obey. It means it's kind of after hearing or beyond hearing. You cannot obey something unless you have heard it. And sometimes it's hard to learn things unless you've heard it. You don't know what you're supposed to do unless somebody tells you. Use your fork. Use your manners. Say please. Don't wear that. Do not touch your sister again. Don't cross that line. Come in here. Stop. Those are all things that we hear parents say. Right? And obedience comes after hearing. Hupo akuo. And so you can't obey what you haven't heard. Now that's also not an excuse, because if you've heard it before, well, I didn't hear you. You've ever heard that one? You've told your kid, well, I didn't hear you. That one gets under my skin. So what do we need to do if we're going to learn? If we're going to learn, we need to listen in order to learn. You have to pay attention. Children, obey your parents. That means you're going to have to listen to them. You might think they're stupid and they don't know anything and they embarrass you because they're up there trying to floss or whatever they're trying to do. Just like, oh well. Listen in order to learn. Now, I was trying to think of something to illustrate this. And there are a lot of musicians who cannot read or write music. And maybe you didn't know who some of these are. So I'm just going to play a little bit about some of these musicians. I'm going to play a little music. I want you to listen to it. You'll probably figure out who it is because most of them you'll know. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about what they said. So this first one here. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. When this guy was asked during an interview in 1957 how he writes music if he can't read or play the guitar, he said, it's all a big hoax. I never wrote a song in my life. I get 1/3 of the credit for recording it. It makes me look smarter than I am. I've never even had an idea for a song. Just once, maybe. That was Elvis Presley. What about these guys? I need somebody. See, the Beatles, not just anybody. They were amazing. You know, I need John Lennon told an interviewer, he said, none of us can write it, but as mere musicians, as inspired humans to make the noise, Paul and Ringo are as good as anybody on the planet. Like they couldn't read or write any music. Had no clue. All right, those of you who are ECU fans, you may know this guy. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, in his biography, the guy wrote and claims his inability to read or write music allowed him to focus better on the music that he heard. But he couldn't read it or write anything. All right. He focused on making his own songs because he couldn't play anybody else's. You'll like this one then. Do you know who this guy is? Okay, this is Eric Clapton, considered an amazing guitar player. After a session he once had with Aretha Franklin, he wrote about this in his autobiography. He said, I felt so nervous because I couldn't read music and they were all playing from music sheets and stands. Eric Clapton, nervous to play music because he didn't know. Any of you know this guy? Eddie Van Halen? He told Guitar World that his piano training which he was good at, it transferred to the guitar. He said, but in a very subliminal way, because I never learned how to read. Really, I used to fool the teacher. I did it all by ear. Didn't know how to read or write. All right, everybody knows this one. At least you know the song. You may not know the guy playing the lick. His name's Slash. Slash had an interview once where he said, no, I can't read music, I play by ear. I try to make what I want to hear, sometimes in my head, come out of my hands and into my guitar. I'd say it works. So there are some people, like Tyler can do a little bit playing by ear. He can listen to something and kind of hear. He learned piano playing the Suzuki method. I know Enrico and Ethan over there, they've figured things out. Just kind of listening, and you can pick out different parts and stuff, and that's great if you just can pick out parts. And that works for music, because you want to learn how to play the guitar, so you ignore the drums. You want to learn how to play the piano, so you ignore the guitar. You want to learn how to play the bass line, so you ignore this, that, or the other. That's great for music. But what it doesn't do, it's a terrible idea for family. It's a terrible idea for church. It's a terrible idea for spiritual maturity. Why? Well, because selective hearing, when it comes to this, is elective disobedience. Selective hearing is elective disobedience. See, you might have kids, and we see this when they're younger, and a lot of times you'll tell them 2 or 3 things to do, and they'll choose to do something that you didn't tell them right then, but told them earlier. Like, hey, I need you to clean your room, and you'll tell them that at noon. And then later on in the day, you'll ask them to clean the kitchen. You'll ask them to mow the lawn. You'll ask them to put away their toys, or whatever it is. And you can't find, they're not helping you in the kitchen. Their toys aren't put away. They're not mowing the lawn. And what are they doing? They're cleaning their room. Well, ho, ho, ho. This is like, I told you right now, I told you to mow the lawn or do whatever, but you're clean. Yeah, but you told me to clean my room earlier. I don't know. What this is, it's selective hearing. It's selective hearing. And so by selectively choosing this thing, I'm electively not choosing to do that, which means I'm choosing to disobey. You and I do a lot of the same thing when we find out what's here in Scripture. What is God talking about? How are we supposed to live our lives? Humble yourselves. Don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your lips. Honor your father and mother. We'll get to that in a minute. Children, obey your parents in the Lord. This pleases him. Well, I had my devotion this morning, so my mom's a jerk. Well, I went to church today, so I don't need to listen to my dad. He's so dumb. And you think I'm talking just to, 12 and 16-year-olds here. I'm not. I'm talking to us. God tells us that we should live in such a way. Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as though working for the Lord. So you know that your labor in the Lord is not in vain. A lot of us, we don't do that. So I have an example from when we were in Myrtle Beach. You've been given specific instructions. Okay? So when you play softball, some of you may know this, softball or baseball, you may know what a suicide squeeze is. So Sarah's team is losing. We need to get some runs. We need to get some momentum to come back. Sarah is on third base. We've got a batter up to bat, and we've only got 1 out. And so the coach calls for a suicide squeeze. Here's what a suicide squeeze is. A suicide squeeze is when the runner on third runs as fast as they can as soon as the ball is pitched, while the batter in the box, no matter where the ball is, bunts it. You have to get the ball down. You have to hit the ball into play, because the runner on third will be home before they can field the ball and turn around. So that's the play. The coach says to Sarah, Sarah, you ready? We really need this. You got to go all out. She's like, yep. The runner at the plate seems to have the sign. She shakes her head. She turns to bunt. It's a strike. She pulls back. The catcher catches the ball, and Sarah is about 12 feet away from her by this point, looking like an absolute idiot. What are you doing running from third base going to home when the catcher has the ball? She almost made it back to third base, but she couldn't quite cover the extra 50 feet without getting tagged, and she got out. Why? Because the runner or the batter at home plate electively decided, I don't want to bunt. Okay, Selective hearing is elective disobedience, and it ends up getting people in trouble. Sometimes it ends up getting you in trouble. Children, obey your parents in the Lord in everything, for this is right. And don't think that what they tell you, well, you know what, Mom, you don't really know everything, or Dad, you don't understand, you don't know what you're talking about, or everybody else can do this, or whatever. This is, teens, we do this. But also, adults, don't think just because somebody else is doing something and getting away with it that it's okay for you. Don't think just because, and here's where I say, this is bothering me. Okay? So I'm driving in here, and I know this. I know what I'm talking about today. I'm in my car. I'm on my way to church. And I've been in like this funk, massive funk, where I am just, God, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? I'm excited for my friends who are in ministry where it seems like God is just blessing the socks off of them. And I'm not thoroughly disappointed in thinking I'm not doing anything, because I'm seeing God work, but not on the same kind of scale where I see everyone else. And so Laura and I are having a conversation this week, and she's like, "You're in a funk." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And then we were talking, she's like, "I think we need to just inquire of the Lord. We need to be praying together specifically about what's next." Because just so you guys know, and you can be praying with us, like Ignite's building is going to be built, and they're going to be out of here in October, okay? As it looks now, I went and talked to the owner of this, and it's not looking like we're probably going to be staying here because it's like $3,300 a month. Yeah. But then again, maybe I'll just go get a job and we can take what you're not paying me and put it towards this and we can stay. Like, I don't know. But these are the thoughts that are going into my mind. Like, what does this mean? What's next for us? All this. We need to inquire of the Lord. And it's one of those things where I feel like God told me, you need to be very specific in praying. And I don't even know what to specifically pray for. Like, God, give me an answer? God, give us a place? God, what are we supposed to do? I don't even know. I don't even know. Because it'd be helpful to say, hey, I'm going to pray that, Sam and Michael are pregnant. That's very specific, and we'll know when God answered it, right? I'm not going to pray that they'll be satisfied, because I don't know what the heck that looks like. Like, are you satisfied yet? No? Okay, keep praying. So I kind of feel stuck in that, but God has told me, you need to be praying. So out of the last few nights, with me and my wife, guess how many we've done that? 1. So I am reading this verse, children, obey your parents, or in this case, obey the Father in everything. And he's told me I need to do this, and I'm not, which means I'm not pleasing him, which probably explains why I'm not happy at the moment and why things aren't going well, because I have selectively decided, well, I'm going to do this instead, and that it means I'm electively walking in disobedience to what God has already told me. I tell you that because there's probably something in your life that you've done the same thing with. Where God's told you to do something and you're like, I don't want to. I'm not gonna. This is too hard. I'm uncomfortable. I'm not ready. Whatever it is. You need to listen to learn. We all start as children. We listen to learn. And selective hearing is elective disobedience. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not going to try and pick out what yours are. I'm just going to tell you what mine is. I struggle with it too. And ask you guys, like I'm telling myself, grow up. We need to listen to what God has to say in order to obey. Hupo akuo. So why should we obey? Why should we listen to our parents? Why should we hear our parents? Why should we obey our parents? Well, it says, because this pleases the Lord. In Ephesians, it says, because this is right. And so I'm going to give you one of those cheesy little, because we're talking about children, cheesy little reminders that rhymes. Okay? Why obey? Here's why you obey. You do what's right to bring God delight. You do what's right to bring God delight. It's not about mom and dad. It's just about God the Father. You do what's right to bring God delight. It's possible to please your parents and not please God. I want you to hear me again. It's possible to please your parents and not please God. Obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. That's what it says in Ephesians. Obey your parents in everything. He's talking specifically to Colossus. He's talking about how families should function. Children should be submissive to their parents. But you got to remember what Peter was talking about. You choose whether it's right for us to obey God or man, but we're going to obey God. And so it's possible to obey your parents, but displease God. We don't want that. I don't want that for you. I'm just going to leave that. I'm not going to give any more help to that. I'm just going to say, do what's right to bring God delight. And I guess my challenge in this, when somebody does something that's not right, I don't want you to point it out this week. I just want you to quote this, because you kind of can't say it without smiling. It's that kind of cheesy, and yet true. So Jess, when Judah does something, I want you to give it a shot. Do what's right to bring God delight. Well, you can say it however you want. Just get him to say it, okay? Because sometimes little sayings like this, they actually stick. There was, when I got to preach at Camp Connect, the first night I talked, and we were talking about Romans, love must be sincere, hate what is evil, cling to what is good. And when I got to good, I was supposed to give the gospel, and so I got to share the gospel. And we had talked about months ago, somebody made this comment, nothing's gooder than the gospel. I'm like, dude, I'm totally using that. And so when I preached, I used that. Said nothing's gooder than the gospel. And it's one of those things that just kind of sticks because it doesn't sound right, or there's just something weird about it. Well, when we're in Myrtle Beach, I get a text from the camp director whose child was at camp this year. He said, I just thought I'd let you know, this will make you smile. I was going by the bathroom, and he's in there taking a shower, singing at the top of his lungs. I don't know how, because I didn't give him a song. I just gave him some words. Singing at the top of his lungs over and over and over again, nothing's gooder than the gospel, nothing's gooder than the gospel, nothing's gooder than the gospel. I'm like, yes. And that was like on Tuesday of the week after. So it's almost a week later, and this kid's singing it. So I'm hoping, do what's right to bring God delight. Might be one of those things that just kind of rears its head later on in the week. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. And then, in Ephesians, there's a couple more verses. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you in the land, that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. And so this word honor is used in a couple other places. It's used in 1 Peter, where 1 Peter chapter 2:17, which is in your notes. Honor everyone, love the brotherhood, fear God, and honor the emperor. Really, the guy who's throwing people in prison, you're supposed to honor him? Yes. Honor him. Honor everyone. And in John chapter 5, here's what Jesus is saying. Whoever does not honor the Son, this is 5:23, the second half of it. Whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. So, what does this honor mean? It's just it's a respect. Kids, respect your parents. Now, Tori and Tyler are getting married in how many days? 27. 27, right? You're getting married the 28th? Yeah, okay. And today's the 1st. Yeah, 27 days. What's that? Yeah, I know. I'll be there. So you're about to, move out, and you've already been gone. You don't need to obey everything that we say, but you do need to listen to what your parents say. You don't need to do everything that your mom and dad tell you, but you do need to honor them. And that goes for us as well, who live away from home. We need to hear what our parents are saying. You need to listen to them and do something after that. We need to honor them. And it comes down to this. It's just have an attitude of honor. Children, obey your parents in everything. What does that mean? Well, guys, whoever does not honor the Son does not honor the Father who sent him. And so obedience is something that doesn't come naturally. Children, obey. Oh, how? Well, it's something that we need to learn. Because we all start as children and we need to learn. And we learn by listening. And we can't listen selectively. We have to listen to everything. Children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that your days may be long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So, I wish I had some kind of, what are you supposed to do about it? But I don't. Because we've got a mixed crowd. We've got people, I don't even know what the oldest is here, but let's say there's 60 down to, I don't know who's the youngest. Ella. How old is she? Elijah. Yeah. So what does it mean? Well, first of all, if you're a child, you are of your parents, and you need to obey them. But if you're a child of God, you need to obey Him, because it pleases Him. And you have to obey Him not by watching other people or even listening to me, but by listening to Him. You have to have your own relationship. And I think it was either Kim or Will, because I told you we weren't doing a Bible plan specifically. I wanted you guys to be inviting and asking people to do them with you. There's one that's starting tomorrow. Was it you that started it or William that started it? William started it. Okay? If you want to read it with us, go ask William. He'll send you an invite. If you want to do another one, start it. But you need to get in where you can actually hear God, so that you can obey God, so that you can learn from listening to what He has to say. And then do what's right. And what? You'll bring God delight. Let me pray for you. Father, thank you for this day. I know it seems silly, but I regularly thank you for things like air conditioning that some people take for granted, and I'm just grateful for. I thank you for the family that's gathered here. And God, I thank you that you are a patient Father who works with His children to help them to grow from crawling to walking and talking and feeding ourselves, making good choices, sharing, and then serving others. I thank you, Father, that you walk with us the entire way. I pray that you'd remind us this week that we are your children and that every good and perfect gift comes from you.